Djavin Novienta. How are you? Did I say your name wrong? Oh, what happened?
So sorry about that.
Oh, did you mute yourself or did I mute you?
No, I got muted. I somehow switched to voice activation.
Let me
Let's try that again,
yeah,
shall
take it
we?
from the top. All right, I'll stop this. Djavin Novienta. How are you doing today?
I am lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
I imagine I said your name right. It's spelled with a DJ.
You are right. Most people get that wrong, though it's actually Javen with a long A. That's the part that trips people up.
Okay, Djavin. Okay. So how are you doing? You're from Eve University.
I am very proud to be so.
And from what I've read, you're the cariest of Care Bears.
Yes, the cariest of bears. That is my self-requested title.
Well, tell us how you got interested in Eve and what you played before that, if anything.
I didn't actually play anything before Eve. Eve was my very first MMO.
Well, check that out. How did you hear about it?
That's a good question. I feel like I probably read some gaming article somewhere that happened to mention it. It was right around the time that my family first got like broadband internet because we were the last people to have anything. So we finally had the ability to get online without using dial up and tying up the phone. So I said, okay, I'm actually going to do like a subscription game. So I
So,
got on
so you knew
Eve.
you wanted to play a subscription game.
Yeah, because all of my friends played WoW
Hmm.
and I was super jealous. But I don't know. I think at that point, I mean, 2011, I think it was kind of going out of vogue a little bit.
Hmm.
And it wasn't quite, don't get me wrong, I love myself some RPGs, but I think the whole spaceship kind of open universe thing really appealed to me. So Eve ended up being the thing that I chose.
So you just selected it out of the blue, and then you got into it, and what happened?
I found this teeny tiny little corp in this teeny tiny little alliance. The corp was Bishop Intergalactic Ventures of Grim Enterprises. I don't think either of them exist anymore. Um, but it was just this tiny little corporation of a couple of US people, though I think the alliance had several European people in there.
Hmm.
And it wasn't it was a lot more of a social kind of group. I would say the game was almost secondary to us actually just spending time with each other and unwinding at the end of a workday. Like one of us was like a garbage man, another one was an ex-military medic who was going to school to be a nurse. So we all just sort of got on every evening and, chatted until we went to bed and played Eve the whole time.
Isn't that cool? The cross section of people that kind of come together, age-wise, profession-wise, location-wise, all over the world.
That has I have said that to so many people that it just blows my mind. And that was really my first exposure to the whole just global internet phenomenon. There was one person, one of the other corps in the alliance, who was from Belgium. He was living in the Netherlands, and he was absolutely the best. I would text him like first thing in the morning because that was the only time that we had overlapping, that we were available most of the time, except on weekends. And it was just unbelievable. I was like, I'm talking to someone who's halfway across the world, and I consider them an incredibly close friend, and I've never met them, and and their culture doesn't even matter. It's just such a universal thing that we were able to do.
Yeah. So I imagine you had. How long were you with them?
I was there for 2 years until I took a fairly long break because I just came back to the game last September. So I was gone for about 3 years. So I was with them for 2 years.
So you started in like 2011, and then you played for a few years, and then well, you left around 2013ish. That would be
Yep.
kind of the height of the game when most people were in Eve. And then, as far as population, not the height as far as what was going on.
Right.
So you took off, and then you came back recently, I guess 2016.
Yeah, it was. I had heard about Ascension. So I thought, okay, maybe I should pop back into the game when that drops. But then I realized that I would never be able to stand playing in alpha when my character was already so far advanced. I think I was at 30 something million skill points or something. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to resubscribe. So that's what ended up happening.
Oh, so you're an alpha return player.
No, 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 no. I'm an
Oh,
Omega. I
no,
came
no, no.
back
But you came
in.
back for alpha and then became omega.
It was, well, no, because I came back in September and I think Ascension was November.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I resubscribed before Ascension dropped.
Oh, explain that a little bit. So you just figured I'm going to come back because of Ascension, but you came back soon and you said, forget it. I'm just going to pay a subscription and get back into it.
Exactly. Ascension was what put Eve back on my radar. Um, but then when it's all, in a lot of ways it's almost like an addiction. You get exposed again and you decide to say, okay, I need to go back, and because I had such a great time the first time around, so I was like, okay, I want to have that again.
Yeah. So what's it like the second time around?
It's really different, especially coming back after 3 years. Just so much had changed. It was, and even worse, coming back into Eve University and people always asking for help and being wrong half the time when you try and tell people, what the answer to their question is. And it was like, oh no, that changed back in 2014. Everything changed back in 2014. I don't know what the heck happened in 2014, but that seems to be the root of like every single thing that I didn't know had changed.
Well, if I look back on it, there's Cryas changed a lot of things for industry. Then you had Aegis, which changed sovereignty mechanics. And then you recently had Citadels about a year ago, and that
Oh, and
changed.
Rubicon, that was the other big one.
Rubicon. What changed in Rubicon?
Uh,
I have to look that one up.
that's a really good. Let's look it up on the Unity.
All right, we'll
Um,
look it up after the show.
plug.
Yeah.
Um,
So you run the Eve Uni Wiki, is that right?
I am a wiki curator. Yes. One of these days, maybe they'll make me the wiki manager. We
Ah,
shall see. Um,
I
but
love, I
yes, that is
love,
what I
I
spend.
love space librarians. You guys are so important to uh, the collective thing that actually happens. Uh, People will look back, 10, 20 years from now and try to understand these cyber, you know, places of thought where people came together but weren't physically in the same space and stuff. And you'll be one of the people that will categorize the kinds of information that was going back and forth.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say. I do love working on the UniWiki. It's something of an obsession of mine. Um, it satisfies almost every urge that I have. I get to help people by putting information out there. I love writing. I love, using the MediaWiki markup and making pages all pretty. I mean, dear Lord, I can't count the number of edits I've made at this point. I think I was up to like 3,000 in a 30-day period at one point. So I've been like a madman as far as that's concerned.
Oh my God, it's amazing. That's that's an amazing work ethic. So,
It happens on its own, honestly. I'll just log in and look at some page and do some minor edit, and then something else will catch my eye. And it's like, it's like Wikipedia. You get sucked in, but it's editing this time.
yeah. So the satisfaction is making something correct or making it whole. What's the reward that you get for doing that?
I would say not even so much making it correct. It's, this is going to sound super cheesy, but for me, it really is about providing that service to the greater Eve community. We don't have Evelopedia anymore, and I loved the Evelopedia. I couldn't believe when I came back that Evelopedia was gone.
Yeah.
So now it really is the thought that really is going through my brain when I'm editing is this is going to help more people than I will ever have the pleasure of meeting or knowing, because this is what the community uses now, and that makes me feel so good.
Oh, it's interesting. Motivation. I imagine that's one of the reasons you decided that you were going to throw your hat in the ring for CSM.
Exactly. It's I want to be on the CSM for the same reason that everyone else wants to be on the CSM. I want Eve to be the best game that it can possibly be.
Oh,
And
I thought you were going to say I want to leak information to my friends.
wouldn't that be nice? Geez, they'd kill me. But no, we all want that. And if I can be part of that, even if it's just for a year, that would make my entire life.
Really?
Absolutely. It's to be, I don't know, one of these days I'm working on, going back to school to actually learn computer programming. Who knows what will end up happening with that? I might not end up in the gaming industry, but getting involved in something in the gaming industry, particularly with a game that's so close to my heart, like that would be like such a crowning life experience.
Yeah. Well, I imagine you'd be one of those players that, if you were on the CSM, just documents everything that's happening. And, like, well, I won't mention names, but people in the past have done. They just write all the minutes and they put in all the hard work as far as writing down what happened and stuff like that.
That would be fun. I almost say let's put it on the UniWiki, but no, I don't think that would be quite the forum for that. I don't know. It would be
Maybe it
hard
would.
to, maybe it would. Who knows? I mean, the whole community uses it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be tough to compete with the minutes as they are. I really enjoy reading them. I would be hard pressed to do better, but if there was no one else around who wanted to do that, I would certainly take up that challenge.
Well, it's a group effort to put those minutes together, I think, and there's always somebody on the CSM that likes being the community communicator, that likes putting out the information and making sure that it gets out there in different places. But I've been watching Eve Uni, and you guys have been ticking up quite a bit since September. The Eve Uni site is one of the few sites that's really going up as far as like visitation. So you guys are doing something right since about the time you got back. I guess I give you credit for that.
I'd like to think so. Most of the credit lies with the directorate, but at least I'm there to help welcome all these new people that are alphas that are coming in. They have no idea what to do, and it's just super fun to see the kind of awe that they get when they realize just how wide open the game is.
So how do those new players react to you? Are you like somebody? If you're running around being helpful, they must really love you.
I would like to think so. My home as an orientation officer is in our student lounge on our private Mumble. So that's basically the first place that most people go. It's also linked to the public lounge where even people who aren't in the uni can come in. So people from the larger community can come in and ask us questions live if they want to. And one of the things that I really strive to do is to be the face of the uni. I'm one of the first people that they're going to talk to after the person who actually accepts their invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I say, welcome to Eve. If you have any questions, I'm here. And you just sort of sit there and you be accessible to them. And you have to learn how to answer questions in a way that's a lot more complete than in other places. You have to sort of guess what it is that they want to know rather than what it is that they're asking. But I
Interesting.
I think I'm pretty personable, so orientation officer is just the perfect position for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you would be somebody who would be perfect for that kind of job. Now, that it's interesting because that wants to extend, it seems like, from reading a little bit of your platform to, sorry, one second.
No worries.
Sorry, I'm at work and there's people moving around and stuff, so I have to like,
How dare they?
yeah. So so we'll consider this part edited out, but the it seems to be from reading your platform that there's kind of gravitations towards like documenting things and like putting more information in the hands of more people. Like you want to make a list of who's who in Eve and stuff like that, right?
It would be. It's true. There needs to be more, especially now that the Evopedia is gone. There
Mm-hmm.
needs to be some kind of source for officially verified information. The number one problem that you run into when you work on the UniWiki is that unless you go into the game and verify something for yourself, or you manage to dig through the mirror over at Fuzzwork, which at this point can be somewhat out of date since we've had, what, 2 expansions since then.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to verify any information that you put on the UniWiki. And now that we don't have the in-game browser anymore, you can't even access that information in game.
Yeah.
So you have this sort of double whammy of I need to go outside the game in order to learn about the game. And even when I do learn about the game, there's always the chance that the information I'm getting is wrong. And I think the most important thing that CCP can do is to just, more tooltips, better in-game help, all of this information coming directly from them. And that way, even if it's just, short little blurbs about certain game mechanics, that way you know that at least that information is correct and you can use that as sort of a baseline.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that frankly, I think that they have a problem with that because there's a lot of man hours put into, typing all that stuff up, making sure it's spelled correctly, and, the process is pretty thick. I think they're probably happy to dish that off to you guys. But I get what you mean, because once it's in the game, it's sanctioned, right? And I did talk
Exactly.
to a lore expert who said, Fyridian, who's amazing, said that the first contact with lore really is inside the game with those, fly-ups or, doing show info on an object. That's your first contact with lore and the immersion. And so then if you want to enhance that, it seems like it would enhance the possibilities of immersion and just factually correct information.
Absolutely. Like you go and the show info could definitely use some work. I understand why it is the way it is. They construct these dead space complexes out of little pieces, as you do. But unfortunately, because they construct it out of little pieces, the greater whole doesn't really have any kind of description to it. So you just get, oh, this is a Blood Raider wall, or this is an abandoned station. So
Mm-hmm.
having something more, they have those pop-ups that you get before you warp into a Dead Space site with a little blurb about it. Even more of that would be such a great step towards feeling that real immersion, like there's actually something there that you're flying into.
Why couldn't you have a wiki inside the game as part of a data bank on your ship, so that when you run across things, you can have a wormhole of information. You can just keep going layer after layer, finding out about things and related things and stuff like that. It seems like it would be a natural place for it.
It really would be. Even, I think I put this on my forum post, but even the other MMO that I play is Final Fantasy XIV, and one of the things they have there is something called Active Help. And what that is the first time you encounter some kind of game mechanic, regardless of what that mechanic is, you get a little pop-up and it says Active Help, blah, 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 whatever the mechanic is. And you can choose to click on it or not, so it's not this big intrusive thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do open it up, it gives you a couple short pages of information about the game mechanic that you've just encountered. And even something like that, they have that in Inception for a lot of the really basic things. They have the visual pop-ups with the voiceovers. So even just as a natural expansion to that, you could do that for scanning. You could do it for combat sites, anomalies, wormholes, even, first going into low sec, the current low sec warning, you're about to go into an unsafe area of space. Well, why is it unsafe? Why might I not want to go here?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to change when I go through this
Yeah.
gate? All of that stuff is really important.
Right. What's dangerous about it? What can I expect on the other side? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's interesting because it seems to me like it says basically, are you sure you want to go in here? It's dangerous. And anybody would be like, well, I'm not sure because I don't have any information. Should I or shouldn't I? Give me something to decide on, not just, you're going to die if you go past this, possibly. That doesn't seem like. And this is interesting. You wanted to make an NPC bestiary. What's that?
It would be like currently, the show info, you look at any given NPC ship and you'll see, the threat rating, which isn't terribly descriptive. Like, is extreme more dangerous than deadly? Which,
right.
Which one's worse? But you know how players always put in their bios the damage types,
right,
the tanks, and the thing that you're supposed to use. Why is that not readily available? That is something that is so integral to success in combat. Mm-hmm. And especially something even from a lore perspective, all of the empires know beyond a shadow of a doubt what most of these ships are capable of. So why can't players tell at a glance what it is that they're supposed to be using? If you're not, I don't think it necessarily confers any kind of it doesn't
advantage.
Right, exactly, because I fly a Mar, for example. I can't change my damage type, so you do still have to make preparations before you go out.
Well, you can with different crystals, but you would have to take those crystals before you went out. Yeah.
Well, not even, because it's just if I go out and I fight something that should be hit with kinetic damage, I'm out of luck unless I go and bring some other weapon system entirely.
Is that right?
Yeah. Frequency crystals are only thermal and EM damage.
All of them?
All of them.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me.
No worries.
We'll edit that part out too.
Matterall doesn't know how.
Matterall corrected. Doesn't know how crystals work anymore.
That's the next Reddit post.
It's like, wait, but crystals are different colors.
They are, and they're very pretty. And that's actually how I remember the actual wavelengths of light, is because they actually match the actual wavelengths.
That is awesome. I didn't know that. And thank you for clearing that up for me. I had a little brain lapse there.
No problem.
Yeah, so and the bestiary thing is really interesting. You're saying that NPC information is part of the bestiary. So you would know how these things, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are in general terms, so that it doesn't kill your immersion. But you would have an idea of the things that you're running across as you run across them in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's and again, going back to the lore perspective, what's the difference between NPC number 152 and NPC number 278? You get almost nothing from the current show info. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, someone just happened to tell me not long ago, you can tell by the names of incursion NPCs what system they were abducted from, because they're named after systems. And I didn't know that. Yeah. Like, how cool would it be to be able to see that just in game? Like, you examine it, it's like, oh, this ship's crew was abducted from this system. Like, that would be super awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And they could, because there's some people saying, yeah, they should kind of tune up incursions. Not much has happened. But can you imagine, like, if you were to destroy some incursion stuff, that sometimes people would fall out of the cargo or whatever, and then be able to take them back to their home system for rehabilitation.
Oh my gosh.
It would give you a whole nother mission. But, okay, maybe different game. But I kind of see that as like, oh, now you're talking about an ecology of Eve. Like, now you're starting to talk about layers of systems rather than the static nature of the static environment plus people involved. Now you're talking about a system that has like layers and layers of depth that you can get yourself involved with, instead of kill the thing, get the money, kill the thing, get the loot, sell the loot.
Exactly. It would be nice to see. It would be nice to be able to think of New Eden as something that would be there whether the players are there or not. If it was a world, a living world unto itself that we also happen to inhabit. Granted, that would take so much work down the line, but
Mm-hmm.
if I could have my wish, like that's what it would be. I like seeing myself as a resident of New Eden and not, as a player. And that would help to make immersion, almost complete if New Eden was able to basically be itself regardless of whether or not players existed.
Yeah, and I think it also takes some of the pressure off, because a lot of us feel responsible for the game, and so we need to constantly play it, constantly talk about it, constantly report on it, to keep it healthy and keep it on rails and keep people interested in it. Because we're the content generators, not just in game, but also we're the people that, at least in the news part of it, bring the stories out of the things of consequence, give them definition, give them context, and interest people who don't even play the game. They say reading about the games is about as exciting as playing it, or sometimes more. But we do it because we want to, part of it is we want to make sure that people stay interested in the game. And it would be interesting to kind of get a little of that pressure off. Like, wow, the game itself is a world, and you can step into it, instead of like, I need to step into this world and make something happen if anything's going to happen at all. It would just be a really huge change to know that, like, if you weren't there, things were still happening.
Exactly. What a responsibility Eve players have to be the primary content creators for the game. And that's super awesome, and it's so unique in the gaming world, but it's true. I just thinking about the people down in nullsec that need to think, okay, I need to keep my group engaged. What can we do? What kind of roams can we do? What kind of big fights can we get into so that we can keep our group, because people need to stay engaged. And I think it would be welcomed by a large majority of the player base if there was more that people could be assured would always be there to be able to go do
Yeah.
and to be able to experience.
Okay, well, real quick, let's go over your. So you have some very interesting things I haven't heard about, but why don't you go over your platform? Do you want me to read it to you, or do you want to? Do you want to
Well,
just?
you tell me
Okay. Yeah.
what you find new and exciting about
Well,
it.
we talked about the active help, but reworking the Cosmos missions.
Cosmos missions. Oh boy, what a mess. There is a great blog post out there. I cannot remember for the life of me where I saw it, but it's like a two-part blog post on the problem with Cosmos missions. And the my problem with Cosmos missions is twofold. One, they are lore that is almost completely inaccessible if you do not want to tank your standing with, half of the Empire factions most of the time. And they are really unclear as to the order that you do them in, what's necessary to do them. And they're not terribly rewarding. Those storyline modules are not particularly good. They're really expensive to produce. So there's almost zero reason to run Cosmos missions, basically. What I would like to see from them is maybe relax the standings a little bit. Honestly, kind of remove the standings. I think lore, in as many cases as possible, should not be locked behind standings, because let's be honest, standings can be such a pain sometimes, especially if you're like me and ran only MR missions for 2 years and didn't avoid fighting the other Empire factions. And am 5 levels of diplomacy away from being kill on sight in Galentian Minmatar space.
God.
So, so I feel this very keenly when I say, so, half of the epic arcs I can't do unless I go and grind standing. I can't do the Cosmos arcs of, I think Amar is the only Cosmos arc that I have access to the whole thing. And from a lore perspective, I think it's important that every player be able to access lore-centered PvE content. I think standings are good in a meta sort of way to measure the regular missions and what you have access to there and taxes and all that jazz. But I think when it comes to experiencing the lore in the game, it's important that everyone have access to those kinds of missions.
Well, that's cool. Another thing you want to do is unlock journal entries for expeditions and complexes. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Oh, so, the epic arcs already have very, very detailed journal entries. As far as what happened, you can really go back and really understand what happened in those epic arcs, especially since, they have the forks, so you aren't necessarily sure where it could have diverged. And, just a page or two, especially with things like escalations, you get these fairly long pop-ups when you get the next section of an escalation sometimes. And wouldn't it be great to be able to go back and see what exactly that escalation meant? What did I just affect? What did I just do? There's one rogue drone. I can't remember if it's an escalation or if it's just in one of the complexes. But if you look in local, you can see that one of the sentient rogue drones says something, and most of it is just asterisks. But if you take the time to figure it out, it's basically saying, "Why do you hate us?"
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you're a rogue drone and you just pulled at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
But something like that could really, if you had something that you could go back to and look at, what story have I experienced so far? What more can I get out of an escalation? Because you don't finish an escalation every time. So, if you see, okay, I've done 2 escalations off of this site, let me go run another one, and maybe I'll get the third and I can see the next part of the story. It will encourage people to go back and do this content because they're going to want to see how the story ends.
Oh. Wow, it's fascinating stuff. So I encourage people to check out your, what do they call that? I guess your platform or
my lovely forum post.
Yeah, your forum post. It talks about some of the ideas you have and stuff like that. But we're out of time. This is really, so I want to ask you about a number of these. Maybe we'll talk to you on the actual show that we have every Saturday sometime.
Oh, I love that.
Love to have some participation from Eve Uni because I'm a big fan. I was in Eve Uni myself at one point.
We're everywhere.
You guys are everywhere.
There's 5 candidates, including me, that were in Eve University this year.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the place to start. It depends. There's other places to start too, but Eve Uni really is a unique thing, and it's neat to see it still going and going pretty strong, I think. Like I said,
absolutely.
You guys are getting a lot of attention online. You can check it through alexa.com. You can see your statistics are going up. The interesting sites, by the way, are Eve Uni going up, Eve Russia or Eve RUS going up. And I looked at both those sites to see what they have in common. Why are they going up? By the way, Imperium News is also skyrocketing straight up, but that's because we're moving over from the Matani.com. And the thing that you two have in common is you guys have wikis. So there's a bunch of new players looking for information.
And that's how you do it. That's the carrot on the stick. And, once they see the Uni Wiki, even if you don't know about the Uni, you go to the Uni Wiki, and then you know that Eve University exists. And hopefully, a non-trivial percentage of those players then go on to join us. So it's absolutely the perfect way of recruiting without being aggressive about it.
It's great. You're in the right business. Djavin, or is it Djavin?
Djavin.
Djavin, nice to meet you. Real pleasure talking to you. Good luck on your campaign.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me.